Thank you. Hi, everybody, and good morning. Thank you for joining me. I switched on the webcam just so that you can see there's a real person on the other side and just so that we can connect in a different way. My name is Debbie Donaldson, and I'm going to be hosting a series of 3 webinars for you that talk to intentional choices and your Corona journey. And the objective of these sessions is to be able to support you in your personal capacity. There are many other tools that IOPSA provides you, from training to information sessions on how to run your business, all kinds of things. And at this time of crisis, those tools are really available to you. But at the end of the day, it starts with you and where you are at. And if your state of mind, what your state of mind is going to affect the choices that you make as you go forward. And so it's really important that we're supporting you at this particular point in time so that all the other things can come together. You know, we've gone from a global pandemic crisis has resulted in a national disaster being declared, which affects all of us as citizens. And that has gone to a community shutdown, and we are shut down in our communities, which is translated to you being alone in your homes or with your family in a very small space compared to what you are used to. And so with that in mind, we want to take this time to really say, what do we do with ourselves and how do we check in with ourselves in this small space so that you can equip yourself with some basic fundamental tools and guidance, and then from there be able to come back as you integrate into the rest of society as we go through this journey. So I'm going to switch off my webcam now and go through a couple of slides. And I just want for you to, as Sean has invited, please feel free to add your questions as we go along, and we'll certainly try to deal with them as we go through this process. So as you can see, my contact details are available to you, and Steve has really asked me to emphasize this. You are more than welcome to make contact with me after this, should be there any way that we can support you in your personal capacity as we go, as you are taking this journey. Just a little bit about me. My background is in coaching, and so I have supported, I was so amazed to see that I've been supporting IOPSA since 2013. It's such a long time. And when Steve phoned me this week, last week, I just realized it's been over 7 years. So the objective today, I've held many roles in supporting IOPSA, but the objective is really related to my integral coaching support. And that is to support you as an individual or in groups, and to share that support at multiple levels. You know, so often when we think about ourselves, we think very much in terms of our head. And so my job is to help us think in terms of our head, our emotions, our body, and how we hold ourselves, and how that translates into the actions and choices we make as individuals. So I've just shared with you the 3 journeys that we're going to go through on this next slide. We're starting with your state matters, and that's about today. Where are you in your state of mind? How is that influencing the decisions you're making right now? The next session we'll move to shifting intention to action, and then we'll deal with the final session will be about building a future now. And we might change that depending on the feedback we get over this period. What I want you to be conscious of is this human being here behind this banner. There's an emphasis on this human being's head, and as I've said earlier, we spend so much time making decisions in our head, and we forget there's a whole host there's a whole body related to this human being that we can tap into in terms of our intelligence and how we are actually dealing with things as we go forward. So we'll come to that in a little bit more detail just now. There's 2 tools that I want to talk to you about today. One is about a check-in and checking in with ourselves and with others over this time, and the criticalness of that as you support your own state of mind. And the second one is accessing the wisdom in this very difficult time. You know, this difficult time of hearing difficult views, different opinions, all the no's that crop up in our lives, all the objections we have to being locked in and being in a confined space, having to put up with things that we haven't had to put up with before. Suddenly, our dog is very much in our face. Our children are very much in our space. And so what do we do with all of this? And listening to those difficult things and accessing the wisdom that we learned from that difficult moment. So what I'd like to do to you now, what I'd like you to do now, before I move on to the next slide, I'd like you to just take a moment and close your eyes if you don't mind. And just for a moment, listen to the word corona. We have a number of ways we can pronounce this word. And I was just playing with it and focusing on different emphasis. And I want you to just check in with yourself now what you hear. So I'll take you through a series of how I enunciate it. So let's just talk corona. For owner. For owner. Corona. For owner. What did you hear? So open up your eyes and I just want you to become aware of what you heard. In the word corona, as I went into it in just a little bit more detail and just emphasized different parts of it and explored it, I started to hear very clearly two words emerged for me. And the two words were for owner. So at the moment, I'm asking you, what did you hear? Did you just hear the word corona? And when we think about that, we have this visual of the coronavirus. You know, so many of you are stimulated with different visuals, with different inputs on the news and 24/7. I mean, it's accessible to us 24/7. And so perhaps you're thinking about the virus and death and the fact that there are so many things that this is affecting or taking away from you right now in your life. It's stopping the payments that you normally get. It's stopping your opportunity for you to connect with your customers, for you to work. All kinds of things are going through. Your fear of your children's health, your health, what will happen to us? Will I die from this virus? And so we focus on that corona space. The challenge I want to invite you into today is how can we use that knowledge from that corona and access it so that we can become the core owners of our choices as to what we do with the information we have around this coronavirus. And you'll see in this symbol over here, we have a little eye with a lot of dots above it, because there is so much information available to us. And so what is so critical in terms of this invitation that I'm asking you to take is taking all of that information that we have available. How can we now take that information, become the owner of what we want to hear and what we hear, and turn that into very intentional choices about how we will deal with this coronavirus? Not ignore it, but own the journey, as opposed to allowing the coronavirus to manage our time and consume us. Can we turn this into different choices? I'm going to just share an example quickly with you about a Pilates teacher that I attend. 2 weeks before the shutdown, she decided that her concern here was that the coronavirus was people could get infected in her studio. And there was no shutdown, but she took the information that she had and she decided her intentional choice was to put all of the sessions online on her Facebook page. And so she actually, instead of me achieving, being able to attend one Pilates session, she turned it into 3 sessions every day online because she wanted us to connect with her. And suddenly because of her very intentional choices, I am connecting with her and feeling extremely supported at this point in time. So I have another question for you. I'd like to ask you now, how are you currently showing up? And on your screen, you will see now that there is a whole body over here. There is more to our choices than just thinking through logic. There is feelings and emotions that we have that I've just included as a symbol with this heart. We also have our body and the way that we are feeling. How are you currently showing up? How is this serving you and your relationships and your business? What is actually happening with you? I'm going to take a moment now just to switch on this webcam again. And if you look at how you're showing up, some of you may be showing up in a very closed form. Your body may be really closed right now. You're feeling really tense in your body. There's just sore and aching. Some of you may already have developed symptoms of really feeling sick. And your body is showing up those symptoms of the stress and the strain that you are feeling. You may be just thinking only about death and only about what all the crisis that this is creating in your life. But others of you may already have made that transition where you're lifting that body up and you're saying, okay, I'm ready to step into the space and I'm ready to assimilate this information and make some very intentional choices about where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do. So where are you on this space? So what I'd like you to do, we're not going to have a poll, but I want you to just take a look at these questions that are going to come up before you now. And just in your mind, I want you to look at the pairs of words that you see here. The first pair is impossible and possible. So if you answer the question, what best describes your view of the lockdown period for you? Is it that you would vote a number 1, it's impossible for me? Or would you say it's possible? So in my voting for this, I voted a number 7 because it absolutely is possible with some changes that I've made. And so I'm working with those changes. Is it difficult or is it easy? My number here was number 6 because it is not easy. However, I have put in place as much as I can to make it as convenient and easy for me. Is it beyond my control or within my control? This was a really difficult one for me to rate. A lot of what is happening around me is out of my control. But being the kind of person that I am, for me, it's really important to look at what is within my control. And so I would rate this at the moment at about a 5 because what I can control, I am controlling. But there are things like my customer payments and things that I cannot control at the moment that is going to affect me. And it's interesting, the more that we can create control, it's really important for entrepreneurs and based on a research that I did last year. For entrepreneurs and people in control of their businesses or working for other people, it's important for us to be in control to control as much as possible in order for us to be able to open up spaces for us to actually take action. So I'm going to cover the first tool that I want to share with you today in your time that you are in this lockdown. But remember, this tool goes way beyond the lockdown. I want to share with you a check-in. And a check-in is simply trying to identify where I am and being real about where I am and where others are in my vicinity. So let's just look at this tool of a check-in. And for so many of us, as I said before, we'll check in with our heads, but we'll forget about our bodies. So take a moment now while you're sitting here and watching this webinar to just scan your body and become aware of your body and identify what is happening with you. Also, acknowledge your feelings. What feelings are you experiencing? So for me at the moment, my body is got a bit of tension, which is a healthy tension in my body because I'm presenting to you. And the feelings that I'm feeling is a strong sense of wanting to connect to you. I have a feeling of really wanting to connect and to have a sense of I can see you and you can see me. And the thoughts that I have had over the last few weeks have been, last few days and the last couple of days have been, what can I do to be able to work with my clients in ways that will actually, with my clients, with my family, that will connect me to them. And so as I've been able to check in with myself over the last few days, I've been able to make some very, very intentional choices. Now, I will tell you that I started this lockdown much earlier than you did because we had a potential exposure, and I'll share a little bit about what happened with that as we go into the second tool that we use. But let's just look at checking in with yourself. What about checking in with others? And before I move off from that slide, I just want to say that, you know, there might be, I don't know how many men we have in the audience or how many ladies we have, but there's almost a sense, there's this fallacy in our world that says we can't acknowledge our emotions and our feelings. And I want you to say that by denying them, they don't go away, because we did that exercise a little earlier of checking in on how are you showing up. And whether you say them out loud or not, they are happening at the moment, and they may be showing up in the way you are exhibiting symptoms in your body and in other ways in how you are engaging with people. So let's just talk about checking in with others that are in your home. You know, they are there, they are in your environment. And I've just put a couple of how to check in. But I want to share with you where others are in our environment, because they also affect our intentional choices and the choices that we make. I checked in with my son a couple of days ago, and he was sharing with me, and I was doing all of these things, but the one thing I did was I didn't keep my mouth closed. And he was sharing with me how he was feeling, and he was really, really concerned. He was worried about the security of his job, the amount of trade that is taking place at the moment, and he had some real concerns. And of course, I had my own concerns around this, and instead of keeping quiet and listening to him, to actually grasp what he was trying to say and to explore what he was saying, I started sort of sharing other examples of how people were also in a lockdown and this is what they were faced with and so forth. And he just asked me to stop, and he said, "Mom, please, just stop." He's a grown man, but he said to me, "Just stop, please. I need you to just hear what I am going through at this point in time. I need you to hear what I am experiencing and acknowledge that for me." And it was amazing as I stopped, and I immediately said, "I'm so sorry about that. I mean, I'm in this business of listening to people, right?" And there I was, not practicing what I preach. And so I made an intentional choice to actually just listen to where he was, which brings me to that part that I was really fearing. It was very tough for me to hear that he was going through so much concern and stress. But the second tool that you need to lean into and to access is this wisdom of that stress, of that difficulty, of that opinion. And this is not always easy, but this is an invitation I want to make with you. And even if it is difficult for you, go there, come back, go there, come back, and just see whether you can explore this tension that you are feeling and what it is actually creating for you. I'll give you an example so that it just makes it a bit more come to life. That concern that my son had was kind of the corona way, not about the corona way, right? But it was okay. So we leaned into that. And as I listened and just gave him space, he was able to tap into the wisdom that was actually that he needed. And actually, once he'd gone into it, he realized that what he needed in order to sustain their business and to make a valuable contribution in terms of the business and his concerns about a job going forward was he needed to innovate. And so he made an intentional choice. He went off after checking in with me and made this wonderful intentional choice to innovate, and he did. And my role in that space, I mean, my picture would be all grown up human beings or taller human beings, but yours might be a whole host of little ones. But his intentional choice and my role was just to hear him so that he could access that wisdom and have enough space and time to explore what was his concern so that he could find some answers. I'm going to share with you just the experience I had. When we were potentially exposed to this coronavirus, I went into a state of real dread and fear. And I withdrew I just withdrew into myself and was like kind of teasing out this whole process. And one of the things that I eventually got to, it took me about 3 days, I must tell you, but I teased this out and I came to this space realizing how alone this virus is. Actually, it makes you very alone because it's an isolation, right? And so I realized that actually, if you die, there's a part of you that dies alone. You're dying alone because you are isolated at that point if you have sought help officially through the channels and so forth. And that loneliness, as I leaned into it, it created some wisdom for me, if you look at this unconscious space. And I tapped into that wisdom and I realized I needed to find a way to connect. And I landed up, connecting into my prayer groups at church, and I ended up connecting with my colleagues, and I landed up connecting with customers through a conversation. And that's how I got to actually be here today, because I connected with Steve, and Steve said to me, we need to be connecting with our members because they have all these concerns. And so for me, I made an intentional choice to connect, and it started to change where I am at. So I'd like to invite you, you are more than welcome, please access my website and take a look at the resources there. And one, there's two other resources that will help you with the check-in, but there's another resource about listening for wisdom. And I would really like to invite you to access the brochure that talks about speaking peace in a world of conflict. There are some words there that describe your needs in different forms. And if you as an individual can access those needs, there is a way that you can also transform the corona situation into you being a core owner of your choices. And you might tap into needs of others. I have accessed so many stories of late, but two that stood out were two online businesses reinvented their massive businesses to be able to supply people with essential goods literally in about 2 to 3 days. And they turned what is potentially the coronavirus into a core ownership and owned intentional decisions to move forward. So as we check out of the session, because my time is well up, we are not going to have a poll, but I want you to just reflect on these questions and just answer whether you agree or strongly disagree. Strongly disagree is one, and whether you strongly agree. And just explore whether you can whether you will use the check-in so that it can inform where you are. Because I want to encourage you, use the check-in at least 3 times a day. Because when you know where you are at now, you can choose how you want to be in the next couple of days, in the next few hours. And so you go, step by step, hour by hour, working your way through your journey. Next week, we will deal with 3 new things. These are personal motivation, accessing the wisdom and failure, and observing your behaviors. And my final invitation and wish for you is, may you turn your intentional choices, may your intentional choices reflect the core ownership that you are experiencing during this corona journey. And may the corona journey not own you. May you be the change you want to see. Thank you. We'll open for questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Debbie. We have got one question here from the audience, which reads, being outside 99% of the time, I'm having problem being confined in such a small place. Do you have any advice on how to deal with this specifically?
Thanks so much for the question. Part of the exploration, and I'm not quite sure how your exploration is, but part of our exploring in that confined space is, how do we reframe that confinement? And my invitation to you, because obviously I don't know the detail connected to that question, but look at reframing that confined space. The other day I felt exactly the same way, and one of the ways I reframed it is I have the benefit of having an outside environment, so I lit a fire in the morning. It was quite cool. Asked my husband to create a campfire, and I had coffee outside because I just needed to feel like I wasn't confined. For you, you may just need to turn your morning into a campfire in your space and just help yourself expand that space. My space has turned into Pilates, has turned into Tai Chi, all kinds of things. It is very confined, but yet my mind has decided that this is no, it has reframed that environment to say it can provide me with all I need. And so I want to just invite you, what would be your reframe? What would be another way of exploring your word corona or your small space? How could you reframe that small space to actually say, this is a great space for me to be able to do a host of different things and explore that? I hope that is helpful to you, but I am available should you want to explore that in very specific detail.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Debbie. We have just got a couple of comments here. Phew, this lady knows her stuff. Well done there. Wonderful session, Debs. Right, and then awesome. Thanks so much. So I do think that your session really did make it through. I think they have been listening. So then just from our side, thanks, Debbie. Thanks for the session. And thanks for the next 2 sessions that are coming up as well.
Thank you, and take care. And I am with you in spirit. And may you know that in your weakness you are strong. It was an amazing reading this morning, and I hope you will turn that weakness into strength and that corona into core ownership. Take care of yourselves. Thank you very much for attending.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Just before I do end off, guys, as I said yesterday, this session that you have got here now, right, or the link, sorry, will be the link for all of the sessions that ran throughout this period. So do not lose it, guys. You will be receiving emails updating you on when the next sessions are. For this morning, we do know that this session specifically will run another 2 times, right? Again, every single Wednesday, 7 o'clock in the morning. So do look out for that. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Please do take part in the survey on the way out and enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.